What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for July 4th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the podcast, a 4th of July edition, and happy birthday, America. And when I started this podcast 2 years ago, I never wanted it to be political. I wanted to keep it Philly sports based and not throw ideas and opinions and things like that out there. But I do think I'm going to take a minute today and just go on a riff. I went back and forth on whether I was even going to do anything about it, but I feel it's something that I need to kind of get out there. And it might offend people, and if it does, I apologize. But I think we're at a critical time in our country's history where we don't work together. Everybody, like somewhere along the line, it's become, if you have a different political opinion or a different any type of ideological thing than me, we hate each other. And that's not what this country was built on. 248 years ago, those guys sat down in Philly and definitely had many different ideas. And truthfully, there were delegates from all the different colonies, and they all had different things. And they worked together to come up with the Declaration of Independence. And yes, our country is not perfect. I don't think anybody out there would say we are, by any stretch of the imagination, perfect. But there's a lot of good things about America, and I think we're really on the brink right now where we need to come together. And just because you and I might have a different opinion, or you and your neighbor, doesn't mean you have to hate them. It's just we've gotten to the point where if you don't agree with me, I hate you, you're an evil person. And that's not the way this country was built on. Like I said, not without faults. There's a lot of things over the years that our country has done that has been negative and isn't what it should be. But I think we need, as we approach the 250th birthday of America, we need to keep that in mind, that those guys were down there and they all had different ideas, different opinions, different values, but they were able to work together. And I really do believe that we can work together again as a country. We just need to get there. So as you're out today celebrating, take the time to listen to somebody. Take the time to see somebody else's perspective without immediately shutting down, saying, you're an idiot, I hate you, you're evil, on either side. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. We just need to listen more and be more accepting and try to see where the other side is coming from. I'm not saying you have to change your values. I'm not trying to say you have to change your views or your opinions. But just, we need to listen and work together, because truthfully, you can interview and talk to 100 people and you're going to get 100 different thoughts and opinions on everything you can imagine. So happy birthday, America. I know we can get better. I have confidence. I don't think it's a lost cause, but we need to just change the way we think, the way we interact with each other. And that's the thing, because truthfully, we're all the same. We just believe different things, and that's okay. That's the beauty of this country. That's what this country was built on. So as you go out today and celebrate, just kind of keep that in mind and be open to listen to somebody else. And I do apologize if you're offended by this, and that was not my intention, but it was something that I went back and forth on this. I started writing some things, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to riff and say what I feel. But I don't think our country is a lost cause. I mean, for all its warts and all of its issues and things like that, I do love this country. I think we're the greatest country in the world. We just need to start coming together and working toward believing that, because I don't know if anybody believes that. Because if we did, we wouldn't disagree so much. We would be open to listening and things like that. So just harken back to that day in the hot Independence Hall where those guys were all in the wool suits and whatever, and they were arguing and working together and compromising and being open to other people's ideas. I think that's what I think the takeaway should be. Just be open and listen. Don't shut down and start judging people 100% based on their political views, because truth of the matter is there is some common ground there. So I spent 5 minutes on that. But happy birthday, America. Happy 4th of July to everyone out there. Most importantly, though, be safe. Don't do anything dumb and stupid. Don't drink and drive. Call an Uber. Whatever you got to do. Don't blow off your hand shooting off fireworks. But most importantly, like I said, just listen and be open to hearing and working together with everybody. And that turned into more of, like I said, a Tuesday motivation / positivity. But I really do believe in this country. I know it's in there. We just need to get there and allow it to come out. So happy 4th of July. Happy birthday, America. 248. You don't look a day over 245. So go out, have some fun today. But please, please be safe. All right. Phillies, and the news came out before the game that Alec Boehm and Trey Turner would be joining Bryce Harper as starters for the All-Star game. It's pretty impressive. You got third base, shortstop, and first base as your 3/4 of the starting infield is Phillies, and that just is a testament to just how good this team really is. And without Schwarber, without Harper in the lineup, they were able to still. This was a solid win. It wasn't anything flashy or anything spectacular, but a solid business-like 5-3 win. Boehm celebrated being named the starter for the All-Star team with a 2-for-4 effort, 2 RBI and a home run. Marchand had a homer, went 2-for-4. And on the night where Zach, I don't know why I always call him Chris. I feel like I grew up with Chris Wheeler, so it's always Chris. But Zach Wheeler didn't have his A game. Wasn't his normal self, but he did just enough to win. The bullpen was solid in relief of him, and they looked for the sweep this afternoon with Christopher Sanchez on the mound, who has been lights out. So looking forward to that throughout my 4th of July festivities today. The Braves did win, so they have a 9-game lead. I'm hoping to keep that at 9 games or even get it up to 10, as the Phillies do head down to Atlanta this weekend for a huge, huge series with the Braves. Kind of one of those measuring sticks, sort of, to harken back to some wrestling, the old school wrestling days. Ric Flair used to say, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And as good as the Phillies have been this year, I think they need to come out and show a good effort against the Braves. So let's get through this game. Hopefully the Phillies are not looking ahead. They can come out. Christopher Sanchez can keep it rolling. But they won another series. I believe that's 17 now. So they're doing what they need to do. Win 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3. But have this weekend series against the Braves circled for obvious reasons. All right, I've been telling you about the John Kruk is my spirit animal shirt at Philly Goat. 10% of the sales help out the Battle Brothers Foundation, they do great things for our veterans. So be sure on 4th of July especially to buy one of those shirts and help our veterans out. While you're there, pick up I have a toxic relationship with Philly sports, and then buy some shoes. Like, I've been wearing the Schmitties all over, and they're so comfortable. So go check out Philly Goat, especially if you're a newer listener. And you be sure to use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off. That helps the podcast out and lets Ryan over at Philly Goat know that you're listening. But be sure to get that Kruk shirt, because, like I said, like, helping out our veterans is one of those things and ideas and core values that I have, that I think we need to take care of our veterans, the guys that fight for me to be able to be here to do this podcast and for us to go and party all day today. So buy the John Kruk is my spirit animal shirt. 10% of that sale will help out the Battle Brothers Foundation. But be sure to use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off, and just check out what they have, because they have all kinds of cool stuff there. All right, the Union are officially in trouble. Blew a 3-1 lead last night against Chicago. That's 5 straight losses for them. They've not won a game in 9 games, and now they're at the next to last position in the MLS standings. Excuse me. I woke up today. My allergies are just bad, so I apologize for coughing, but they're in trouble. So I don't know what needs to be done. I've been trying to figure it out. I don't know if it's coaching, they just don't have the players, or what, but the union are in trouble. And I'm not sure if you saw this or not. And I don't watch it that much anymore. It's kind of, I think, to borrow a TV line, I think it's Jump the Shark. But Hard Knocks started, and the Giants are featured. And the whole Saquon Barkley free agent thing was very prominent on there. And this was an interesting quote from Joe Schoen, the GM. Basically, they showed him talking, and he's saying we need to improve the line, and we're improving the line not to hand off to a $12 million running back, but to protect Daniel Jones. They need to figure out what he is, the $40 man. And I think that set off some things. A.J. Brown basically got pissed off about that, which I love. He's not a good teammate, but here he is sticking up for his new teammate who hasn't even played against, and he's like, we're going to get one for him. And basically the Giants just cast him off. And I like the fact that AJ's pissed. I'm sure Saquon's going to have something to say, and I love it. You guys all know that the Giants are my favorite rival of the Eagles, even more so than the Cowboys. And they basically chose Daniel Jones over Saquon Barkley. And you can spin it any which way you want, but that's ultimately what they did. And I'm sure Saquon feels some type of way. And the last team, I should say, that the Giants wanted Saquon to go to was the Eagles. So buckle up. It's going to be good. But that was more, like I said, I wanted to mention that because of A.J. Brown's reaction, who I think he's really stepping up as a leader, and he had all that bad rep of him being not a good teammate and this, that. But here he is saying, I got your back, Saquon. So I am super, super excited for Eagles season. Sixers are looking to possibly bring back Marcus Morris. I kind of like this as long as the money is right. They certainly missed him after they traded him last year, but hopefully that can get done and worked out. And then a little bit more on the Paul George. I saw a great analogy, I guess, or great. I'm not even sure what you want to call it, but they had an article that basically said he has the highest and lowest expectations of any Max player ever, because they're not expecting him to come in and be Paul George from 8 years ago. But at the same time, he's supposed to come in and lead them to the promised land. So the expectations are low and high at the same time. And I think that was the perfect summation of the whole Paul George thing. Still no update on Buddy Hield and a sign and trade with the Warriors, but I would imagine that that's probably on the horizon. I think there's going to have to be a third team involved. And as long as the Sixers do not take on any ridiculous expiring contracts, get some draft picks, get a guy in here that can help you out, or a guy that you can take then and leverage that into another trade later for someone else. But exciting times for Sixers. The Flyers re-signed Bobby Brink. This is probably going to be one of the more splashier moves they do. As Danny Briere said, be patient. Excuse me. All right, today we're going to go back to 1979. And on this day in 1979, the Phillies beat the Mets 1-0. Steve Carlton pitched a complete game, one hitter, had 9 strikeouts. Bake McBride provided most of the offense for the Phillies that day, went 2 for 3 with a walk and knocked in the only run. And for Carlton, not bad for, at that point, a two-time Cy Young Award winner. We all know what ultimately it happened. He won 2 more. They won the World Series. But he got the first 19 batters he faced out. And unfortunately, that was the best news of the day for the pitching staff, because on this day, the Phillies placed 3 of their starting pitchers, 3 of the 5 on the DL. Larry Christensen pulled a groin. Dick Ruthven had an elbow injury, and then Randy Lurch was on the DL because he broke his thumb in a bar fight. Not good for a team that had high expectations. That 1979 team brought Pete Rose in to help get them over the top. But in 1979, it just wasn't meant to be. Their streak of 3 straight NL East titles had ended. That was when the Pirates broke through and won and ended up winning the World Series. The next year, though, we do know the Phillies would go on to win the World Series. But on this day, 1979, on a day when 3 of their starting pitchers were placed on the DL, Steve Carlton pitched a gem against the Mets, pitching the complete game, giving up 1 hit, having 9 strikeouts as the Phils won 1-0, as Bake McBride provided all of the fireworks the Phils needed on the 4th of July. All right, let's go to the Ultimate Philly Sports Nickname Tournament. And we got 2 great matchups today, but let's go back and recap yesterday's matchups. Very chalky and lots of blowouts yesterday. So in the Balboa region, the Executioner beat Bird Dog with 88% of the vote. So Bernard Hopkins is our number 1 seed in the Balboa region, is moving on. And then in the Schuylkill region, it was the Axeman, Jeremiah Trotter, winning with 70% of the vote over Big Play Slay. And like I said with Joel Embiid, just as well, because Darius has some more important things to worry about. So the Axeman and the Executioner both move on in our Ultimate Philly Sports Nickname Tournament. Today, though, let's go to the Ben Franklin region. And today we have the number 7 seed, the Riverton Rifle, taking on the number 10 seed, the Kangaroo Kid. I'm anxious to see how this one turns out because these are 2 fan favorites from the 70s. Let's start first with the Riverton Rifle. Reggie Leach, winger for the Flyers. He was a number 3 overall pick in 1970 of the Boston Bruins, was traded to the Flyers after they won their first Stanley Cup in 1974. Reggie spent 8 years in Philly, had 306 goals, 208 assists. His best season was probably the 75-76 season. He had career highs in goals, points, and game-winning goals. He had 61 goals, 91 points, 11 game-winning goals, and had a plus-minus of plus 73. Obviously, he helped the Flyers win that 75 Stanley Cup. In the 75-76 season, he became one of only 6 players to date to win the Conn Smythe Trophy in a losing effort. Conn Smythe is the MVP of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Became the first Flyer to win it in a losing effort. Ron Hextall would win it in a losing effort in 1987. And then he was the 3rd Flyer in a row to win the Conn Smythe, as Bernie Parent won it the previous 2 years when the Flyers won the Cup. But in that playoffs, he had 19 goals, 24 points, and scored in 13 of the 16 games the Flyers played in, which is just outstanding. So the name, the Riverton Rifle, comes because he was from Riverton, Manitoba, and his slap shot was that hard. Would intimidate goalies because his shot was that hard. You might also know him as the Chief. I put the Riverton Rifle because I think it's a better nickname, and by all accounts I could find, he was called the Chief based on his Native American status, so kind of one of those borderline questionable. But the Riverton Rifle, Reggie Leach, is our number 7 seed out of the Ben Franklin region. He will be taking on the number 10 seed, the Kangaroo Kid, Billy Cunningham. And Billy Cunningham was one of the best to ever play in the NBA. Spent 17 total years in the Philly, with the Sixers, I should say, in Philly. 9 as a player, 8 as a coach. He was a 4-time All-Star, won an MVP, helped the Sixers win the 67 championship. He's on the All-NBA 75th anniversary team, averaged 20 and 10 for his career. And then as a coach, coached the Sixers to another championship. So he's the only guy in Sixers history to win a championship as a coach and a player for the Sixers. Wasn't too bad as a coach either. 454 wins, almost a 70% winning percentage. And the origin of the Kangaroo Kid comes from his ridiculous leaping ability. So they called him the Kangaroo Kid, which is a pretty cool name. But now it's your turn to decide, out of the Ben Franklin region, who is the better Philly sports nickname? Is it the Riverton Rifle, Reggie Leach, or is it the Kangaroo Kid, Billy Cunningham? 267-495-8531. That'll get you in on the Back to the Future voice and text line. You can also hit me up on social media, Jimbo_Mont at Twitter and TikTok. at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, but most importantly, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mod, and spread the word. When you're at a barbecue today, say, hey, I listened to this great podcast. You should check it out, and direct them toward the YouTube channel. Let's grow this thing. We've been breaking records with listenership as well as people voting in the nickname tournament. So let's keep that momentum rolling. So just mention it while you're at a barbecue. When you're standing by the grill, drinking a beer, mention it to someone. All right. And our next matchup now out of the Cheesesteak region. Another great matchup, and this is an all Phillies matchup. We have the number 5 seed, the Secretary of Defense, taking on the 12 seed Dutch. Gary Maddox versus Darren Daulton. Gary Maddox, let's start with him first. Our 5 seed. He was traded to the Phillies in 1975 for Willie Montanez. Only went on to win 8 Gold Gloves. Spent 12 years total in Philly. Hit 284, 85 homers, 249 doubles. Stole 189 bases. But man, could this dude play the field. Think about Johan Rojas times 100 at least. And that was Gary Maddox. He was on that 1980 World Championship team. He was a Phillies Wall of Fame, or is a Phillies Wall of Famer, and also won the Roberto Clemente Award, which is one of those prestigious awards for Major League Baseball players. It's kind of the equivalent of the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award in the NFL. The origin of the Secretary of Defense came from the Philadelphia Daily News. Bill Conlon, one of the sports writers of the day, gave it to him based on his defensive ability. He just could. Fly ball was hit to center field. He was catching it, and he actually helped make Greg Luzinski able to play the field more to keep his bat in the lineup. But Ralph Kiner came up with one of the greatest quotes about any baseball player, but this really just told you how good Gary Maddox was. He said 2/3 of the Earth's surface is covered by water. The other third is covered by Gary Maddox, and that's just how good he is. My dad used to say that quote all the time. I remember the story. My dad said he met Gary Maddox in a club box. He went down with my uncles and my grandfather. Was a nice guy. But Gary Maddox, the Secretary of Defense, is our number 5 seed, taking on the number 12 seed Dutch, Darren Daulton, who is an all-time Philly favorite. Specifically, if you were old enough to remember that 93 team, ladies loved him. He was one of those guys. Everybody loved Darren Daulton, my mom included. But he was a 25th round pick in 1980 by the Phillies and played all of his career here in Philadelphia, minus like a 2.5 month stint with the Marlins in 97 when he won a World Series. But in Philly, he was a 3-time All-Star, won the 1992 Silver Slugger Award, led the NL in RBI in 1992. He was only a career 245 hitter with 134 homers and 567 RBI, but he played as a backup for most of his career. They constantly had guys coming in and out that Daulton was the backup for, but once he was able to finally get the starting catching role in 1990, that's when he put together that stretch of careers, stretch of good years in his career, I should say. Unfortunately, injuries caught up with him, and he just kind of lost it. His knees were shot. But he certainly was the heart and soul of that 93 team. All of the guys on that team will tell you that Dutch was our leader. Kruk talks about it all the time, that Kruk was the kind of the goofy one. You had Lenny Dykstra, who was kind of out there. And you had all the mixed match, I should say, or hodgepodge is what I was going to say, of personalities. But Dutch was the guy that they all looked to. He was the leader of that team. He is in the Phillies Wall of Fame. And I didn't know this, but the origin of the nickname Dutch was when he was growing up in Kansas. When he was finally old enough to play double Dutch, the kids started saying, hey, your name is DD, just like double Dutch, Darren Daulton. So they started to call him Double Dutch. Eventually, the double was just dropped, and he became known as Dutch. But what a matchup today out of the Cheesesteak region. The number 5 seed, Secretary of Defense, takes on the number 12 seed Dutch. Which is the better Philly sports nickname? Time for you to decide. And then in the Ben Franklin region, we have the number 7 seed, The Riverton Rifle taking on the number 10 seed. Excuse me, the number 10 seed, the Kangaroo Kid, Billy Cunningham. So we got Reggie Leach versus Billy Cunningham, Gary Maddox versus Darren Doughton. Who do you got? What is the best Philly sports nickname? 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. You can also hit me up on the social media. Be sure to spread the word about the podcast this weekend. On this day in 1979, Steve Carlton pitched a complete game one-hitter against the Mets, a game in which the Phillies won 1-0, but the news was terrible for the pitching staff other than that, as Larry Christensen, Dick Ruthman, and Randy Lurch all were placed on the DL for various injuries, some of them baseball-related, and in Randy Lurch's case, some not so baseball-related, but the 79 Phillies did take a step back before finally winning the title in 1980. We'll have more on the Sixers and Flyers as they continue to go through free agency. Will the Phillies sweep the Cubs? I hope so, but I'm at this point, they won the series. I'm focused now on this weekend series coming up against the Braves. The pitching matchups have not been set yet, but this is going to be must-see TV all weekend. Let me know your thoughts on A.J. Brown and if you think Saquon's going to have a little something for the Giants both times they play them. Remember to, on the 4th of July, happy birthday, America. Be safe, but just be open and listen. Don't judge people just based on the fact. And for some reason, flying an American flag has become evil to some people. It's okay to love your country. We have some things we need to improve on, and yes, I think we're all aware of that, but let's start by just listening and being understanding and just respect the opinions of others, because truthfully, 248 years ago down in Independence Hall, those guys had all kinds of different ideas, and they were able to draft the Declaration of Independence. But most importantly, be safe out there. Don't do anything stupid. Don't blow off your hands. Don't drink and drive. And just have fun. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for July 4th, 2024. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a 4th of July. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.